reading in chapter 49 of Genesis today. Jacob is growing old and feeble, and he's beginning to especially go out of his way to bless the people around him. And he's asked Joseph to swear to take him back to the land to bury him and not bury him in Egypt. And now we come to 49, and he will be blessing all of his sons. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defiledest thou it. He went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor. Be not thou united, for in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And good morning. Welcome to VCY Today on this. We'll continue our reading in chapter 49 of Genesis today. Jacob is growing old and feeble, and he's beginning to especially go out of his way to bless the people around him. And he's asked Joseph to swear to take him back to the land to bury him and not bury him in Egypt.
10 seconds remaining.
And now we come to 49, and he will be blessing all of his sons. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defiledest thou it. He went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor. Be not thou united, for in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger,
Switching
for
maps.
it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was
The
cruel.
enemy's taking the package.
I will divide them in
Secure the
Jacob and
package.
scatter them in Israel. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies.
30 seconds
Thy
remain.
father's children shall bow down before thee.
Hunt them down.
Switching maps.
Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He
Knockout.
washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white
Secure the
with
package.
milk.
Kill the enemy. Get to work.
Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon.
Using drill.
Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens,
Tossing
and
a
he
decoy.
saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of
The
the
enemy's
tribes
taking
of
the
Israel.
package.
Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse
The enemy
heels,
dropped the package.
so that his rider
We have
shall
the
fall
package.
backward.
Reloading.
I have waited for thy salvation,
grenade
O
out.
Lord. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
Secure it. We
Out
got
of
the
Asher
ground.
his bread
Ready up
shall
for the
be
next
fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose, he giveth goodly words. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose
Knockout.
branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But
Capture
his
the
bow
package.
abode in
We'll clear the
strength,
AO. Your call,
and the
Saber.
arms of
Tossing a
his
decoy.
hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From
Hostile UAV
thence
in the
is the
area.
shepherd, the stone of
Throwing
Israel.
drill charge.
Even by the God of thy father, who shall help
Decoy
thee,
grenade out.
and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above,
Spike.
blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast
Acquired the
and of the
package.
womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is it that their father spake
Final
unto
30
them,
seconds.
and blessed them. Every one according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave
10
that is in
seconds.
the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan,
The package is in
which
the open.
Abraham
Lock it
bought
down. The enemy
with the
secured
field
the
of
package.
Ephron the Hittite for possession of a burying place. There they buried
Mission
Abraham
failed.
and
Return
Sarah
to
his
base.
wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 80 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die. In my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up, and bury thy father, according
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at VCYAmerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
We do thank you for joining us on Crosstalk today here on VCY America. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is a critical day for these United States of America. Tomorrow, Tuesday, November 8th, citizens across this country will be going to cast their votes in what I believe to be the most critical midterm election that we've seen in our lifetimes. There is much at stake. So we're going to delve right into it because addressing what's before our nation, we do welcome back Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. He's a constitutional attorney, 3 landmark cases before the U.S. Supreme Court, author and host of the radio broadcast Faith and Freedom and Freedom's Call, has authored numerous books. Matt, thank you for joining us here today on Crosstalk.
Thank you, Jim. It's a very important day that's coming up tomorrow in our nation's future.
It really is. And Matt, just as we talk about this day of November 8th, we know there's been a lot of early voting that's happened all across the nation. There's a vast majority of people who wait for tomorrow, Election Day. Just break it down for us, Matt. What do you see at stake for this nation?
Well, when you look at, for example, the United States Senate, that is evenly split, 50-50
Everything.
with the tiebreaker with Kamala Harris. So it's in the Senate that a lot of the terrible bills in the U.S. House have been passed without any problem because they have a majority, which they likely will lose after tomorrow's election. They've been able to pass all the...
Hey man, to be real with you, I'm a political science student, but I still don't want to listen to this shit.
The disrespect, really more likely is what it's called. It's called the Respect for Marriage Act. That's same-sex marriage, but also opens up Pandora's box in so many other ways with regards to authorizing one state to impose its laws on the other states, including child bride marriages and so forth and so on. All those pass through the House. The only reason why it's been stopped in the Senate is because it's a 50-50 tie. Now, on the marriage bill, the same-sex marriage bill, the abortion bill, they have 52, 54 votes because they have a couple of Republicans that are joining the 50 Democrats, but they don't have the 60. But they're trying to get close enough to the 60 to pass these bills. That's how close it is. So, really what's on the ballot tomorrow is not just the candidates, but it's these values. The values of marriage as the union of a man and a woman. The issue of LGBTQ. The whole issue of puberty blockers, whether you're going to have puberty blockers freely given out to children, having their healthy body parts mutilated, and all of the LGBT indoctrination that's happening within the Department of Education and so many other facilities and schools around the country. Abortion through 9 months, including much more funding, more liberal than Roe versus Wade. So much more, including border security, that's on the ballot. All these other issues about nuclear war. You know, if you go back, for example, 50 years ago this month, 50 years ago, we were on the brink of nuclear war with Moscow, with the Soviet Union, because of their military bases that they built and their nuclear warheads that they brought to Cuba. That was under a Democratic president, John F. Kennedy, who was weak on foreign policy, who, by the way, had his brother collude with Russia to help him win with the Soviet Union. They felt he was the weaker candidate, so Russia got involved to try to sway the election to John F. Kennedy. He won because he was weak on foreign policy. His weakness within 2 years brought us to the brink of nuclear war. Biden's weakness within 2 years is bringing us to the brink of nuclear war with regards to, again, the threats coming out of Moscow and the empowerment of Iran. So all of these issues really are on the ballot. We're talking about whether or not Iran becomes a nuclear power, whether we'll have security on our border, and we can talk about some of the horrible things that are happening down there that the media is not covering. Abortion, sanctity of human life, funding abortion, the child, puberty blockers, mutilating surgery, all the indoctrination, the military, the abuse that the military is facing, all these mandates. It's all on the ballot.
Yeah.
So it's a very critical day in America's history.
It really is. And Matt, beyond just the candidates and where they stand on these issues, there are some states that actually have abortion on the ballot as a referendum question. I mean, some that are going to, I think, like Michigan, for instance, Proposition 3, that will expand abortion in their state up until the moment of birth, and on top of that, also give away for the puberty blockers and the cross-sex hormones and everything to be given to young people without parental knowledge and consent. I mean, they will have a very significant ballot issue. Other ballot issues going on in abortion in other states as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big issue that's happening all over the country. And, Michigan's going to be a big state to watch. They're pouring in millions and millions of dollars to try to pass this hastily put together initiative that would put abortion in the Michigan Constitution. But there's so many other states that are going the other way as well. We won this huge victory at the United States Supreme Court in the Dobbs decision on June 24, overturning Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Now the battle is really on the state level. And many states are going a very strong pro-life, but there's others like Michigan want to go even further than Roe versus Wade went and continue the slaughter of the innocent lives being killed and brutally tortured in their states. So much is on the ballot for Christians and other believers, people of values. I think that it is a critical time. 40-plus million people have already cast their ballots, but most people will cast their ballots tomorrow. And we need to vote our biblical values. Voting is the appointment of an agent who acts on our behalf, who binds us. That's what agents do. We can't be in Washington, D.C. or in some of these other places, whether it's local or state, all the time to represent our values. So we appoint someone to represent our values. That person acts on our behalf. And we need to make sure that person, whoever that person is consistent or most consistent with our values.
Matt Staver with us today from Liberty Counsel. As Matt pointed out, the vote tomorrow will determine which party is going to have control over the U.S. Senate. It will determine which party is going to have control over the U.S. House of Representatives. Every seat in the House of Representatives on the ballot tomorrow in this election. Matt, this is also going to have a huge impact upon the states. Who is going to be in control of the state legislative bodies? The governors. Many governor seats are up for election. Attorney generals. We have seen what lax attorney generals have done, and district attorneys have done with George Soros, funding behind them, and the chaos that has come into this nation. I mean, when we think about that, the impact, yes, on the national level, but the state level too, it's going to have a huge impact upon this nation.
Yeah, for example, you look at the state of Kentucky. This is just an example of a very good Attorney General. Attorney General Daniel Cameron. He is very solid. He was very good in the church restriction cases when we were litigating in Kentucky on behalf of the Maryville Baptist Church. We won twice at the Court of Appeals. He filed amicus briefs supporting our position. Well, in a couple of days, November 15, he's going to be arguing at the Kentucky Supreme Court in defense of the sanctity of human life, in defense of a pro-life law that has been passed in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That's the kind of attorney generals that we need, those that reflect our values of life, of marriage, of freedom. So much is on the ballot, and really what will happen tomorrow is going to be determining our future, not just in the next 2 years, but for a long time. We have gone through significant decline in America in the last 2 years under Joe Biden. Joe Biden has become a mockery not only in the United States because of all the gaps he does, but also around the world. And we are living at a very critical, explosive time with China, Russia, and Iran. Those particular areas, not even counting our border. You know, I was talking to a filmmaker, for example, and he said that this one ranch of a person who lives on the border, they found over 100 bodies dead on his property. These are people who have come across the border. They're either killed or they die because of thirst. The media doesn't report on this. But he also said that a lot of people are coming across the border from Venezuela, Nigeria, and some of these are military-looking young men. They're not your typical so-called refugees. It is a real serious threat to our national security, and they're coming across the border by hundreds of thousands. There's a huge, decline in America. People feel it in their pocketbooks with the rise of inflation and the rise of gas prices. So all of that gets changed through elections. And tomorrow is a big, big step in all of these directions.
Let me just mention here on the abortion issues, voters in California, Montana, Michigan, Vermont, and Kentucky all are going to have abortion-related state ballot measures that really is going to determine the future of whether there is the right to, so-called right to kill a child in the womb or protect that baby in the womb. Those states dealing with matters pertaining to it. We also see, as we mentioned, a number of states that are voting on governors. Matt was talking about the illegal immigration issue. Over 2 million encounters, ladies and gentlemen, have happened at the border in the last fiscal year here in the United States of America. And how are we going to be treating? I mean, even Matt, it's an illegal alien that had this alleged action against the husband of Nancy Pelosi. At their residence. This is somebody who's in the country illegally, and we're seeing this prop up in other locations as well. The violent crime that's happening. This election is going to have a bearing on the impact of laws that are coming forth, or who's going to be holding hearings, and what can we do to protect the security of this nation?
Yeah, take for example the illegal, just hundreds of thousands of people, several million actually, over Biden's time already crossing the southern border. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they go. They're just released. They're caught and released. They don't show up for these hearings. They just dissipate within our system. We don't know who they are. We don't know what kind of background. We don't know if they're coming here because they want to start a new life and enjoy freedom, or they want to do some evil act against someone, or they're just generally bad actors. We know that there's a number of them that are generally bad actors. We know the fentanyl, for example, is being trafficked over the border in record numbers. One of the people that this filmmaker that I was talking to about a week ago said is a husband and wife from Nigeria were crossing the river with their baby. They got swept up in the water. They drowned. They were able to rescue the baby, but they had to medevac it to a hospital where it died. They found out that the baby had been sexually molested by the cartel. So these people are coming over, whether they're by cartels or gangs or coyotes. They're coming over. They're saying that they can bring them across the border. And then when they get in the caravan, they're demanding their little girls as a payment. And if you don't give that to them, they will kill everybody. I mean, it is a horrible humanitarian crisis, and it's a major national security crisis as well.
We're going to take a quick break here on Crosstalk, and when we come back, folks, we're going to continue to outlay for you the issues at stake here for tomorrow, including a statement that came out from the president of the Human Rights Campaign as it relates to LGBTQ-related issues and the election taking place tomorrow. Election Day is just ahead. We're discussing it today on Crosstalk. Matt Staver from Liberty Counsel, their website, lc.org, lc.org. We'll be right back.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist and author with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, before the fall of man, did animals suffer?
Chris, the Bible says at the end of creation week, things were very good. Things would live forever with no pain or death. With Adam's sin came the wages of sin. But evolutionists believe that animals lived and died long ago. In fact, that dinosaurs went extinct before man even got here, and yet some of them lived with great pain. A recent discovery of a T-Rex fossil shows this. This dinosaur was quite old when it died. Earlier, it had suffered a broken leg and broken ribs, which had healed. It lived in terrible pain. Now, I don't think that this pain is the result of creation. It's the result of sin. It's certainly not very good, as God pronounced his completed creation back in Genesis.
To learn more about creation, get our free DVD called That's a Fact. Call us at 800-628-7640 and mention the promo code FACT.
Tuned to Crosstalk here on VCY America with Election Day just ahead. Matt Staver with us from Liberty Counsel, their website lc.org. Much we want to unpack here, even in this next segment. Matt, I saw an article that came out from the Michigan Advance, and this is quoting the president of the Human Rights Campaign. Her name is Kelly Robinson. And the article starts, after an onslaught of right-wing attacks on the LGBTQ plus community over the past few years, incoming Human Rights Campaign President Kelly Robinson says she is hopeful that the tide will turn on Tuesday. But listen to this quote that Kelly Robinson gave. This, I think, is a chance all across the country for folks to really decide and make clear that we're not going back. We are going forward, and we know exactly the candidates that will take us there. As it relates, and she's talking directly to the LGBTQ rights, but Matt, very adamant, we are not going back.
No, they're not. And take, for example, the Respect for Marriage Act. That's going to come up for a vote after the midterm on November the 17th. That's the plan. They pushed it after the midterm so that they could get a couple more Republicans. They have about 54 votes right now. And that would make a federal law same-sex marriage across the country. But it also enables one state to impose its state laws on another state. So, for example, California has no marriage age limitation, and so there's a real problem in California, also in Louisiana, with no marriage limitations for age with regards to so-called child bride marriages. They're horrible situations. You also have what's going on in Utah, where they're not prosecuting polygamy. No one's ever been prosecuted in the last 50 or 49 years. And even now, it's just basically like a traffic fine if you get caught with polygamy in Utah. Even Senators Tammy Baldwin from your state of Wisconsin, Democrat, and Susan Collins from Maine, Republican, who support this bill. They're trying to get some additional Republicans. They've acknowledged that this particular bill would open the door to polygamy. They pawn it off as a drafting error, but it was no error at all. That's what they're pushing. The Human Rights Campaign is pushing that. So even no matter what happens tomorrow, they're going to continue to push that. They're bringing big corporate lobbyists to Washington, D.C. to try to garner a few more votes, either to get 6 more, 5 more Republicans to pass the 60-vote threshold to overcome the filibuster, or, absent that, to even try to push to abolish the filibuster. And all they need is 51 votes to do that, and they're very, very close. They just need 2 more votes to do it, because they have 48 Democrats on board, and to abolish the filibuster, they just need 2 more, whether it's 2 more from Murkowski or Collins on the Republican side, or Sinema or Manchin on the Democratic side. So a lot is at stake. The Human Rights Campaign is really pushing its agenda. I think they're going to be disappointed in the response of the election tomorrow for them, but they are continually, they're not going away. And they're trying to, and they're making a lot of effort because they're putting a lot of money into elections and into lobbying candidates and these elected officials once they're in office.
Matt, there are other issues that are going on too, besides the matters on the ballot and the candidates and so forth, and that is some of the things that are going on behind the scenes with social media, and there are many that are still wondering, are the plagues of the 2020 election going to be part of the 2022 election? Daily Signal just reported about a House Oversight Committee of Republicans kicking off an investigation, what they're calling a taxpayer-funded censorship campaign at the Department of Homeland Security. Very disturbing information that's coming forth about government agencies working with social media companies to impact what stories are buried and what stories are coming forth when people do searches?
Yes, you take, for example, these investigations, these committees, even the January 6th committee. You're going to, if you have a change, finally allow Republicans in the House side to be able to have some real investigative committee hearings. One of them that they need to do is on this issue that you're talking about, the Department of Homeland Security. What is happening there is very concerning. It's been going on at least since 2019 when the deep state in the Department of Homeland Security started to formulate a long-term plan. And then after Biden got in office, they started to implement it more, particularly now. It came out this year manifesting itself with the Disinformation Governance Board. That got so much pushback because it was so visible, they said, well, we're going to disband it. I felt that they were doing that, and from a public standpoint, it was a PR disaster, but they were going to continue to move forward, and that's exactly what they've been doing. The Intercept has obtained information through various kinds of public records requests. Some of it comes from the Missouri Attorney General lawsuit regarding the government's collusion and forcing these social media platforms to censor certain things with regards to the election, withdrawal of Afghanistan, COVID shots, alternative treatment, and so forth. So the government has been really the one that has used the social media platforms to censor anything that the Biden administration doesn't want us to hear or say. And that's a real concern. That needs to be stopped. It's not going to happen if you don't have committee hearings. And right now, for example, Ron Johnson, Republican in Wisconsin, he's been wanting to have hearings, and he's held some events regarding what's going on in the military, but because he's in the minority, it's not a real full-blown hearing because the Democrats are crushing that and they're not allowing those hearings to go forward. So what you would see if you ultimately have a change of parties in control, Republicans, for example, rather than Democrats, are some real hearings that are really critical. Border security, what you just talked about with regards to the censorship of the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Department of Homeland Security, and then also with regards to the military and so much more.
Matt, I know with this too, there's concern about the integrity of the vote tomorrow, and I saw a release from Frank Gaffney today from Center for Security Policy, where he is in his commentary saying much of the news heading into tomorrow's election is inspiring. Many Americans have already voted, and millions more are set to do in person on Tuesday, with the prospect of a level of turnout possibly unprecedented for midterms. And then he said it better be, because we need to ensure that the vote is too big to steal. Your comment on that issue?
Well, I agree with him. I certainly do. In fact, this is one of the things that the Department of Homeland Security is trying to censor. Anybody who believes that the elections of 2020 were fraudulent, or that there was misappropriation, or there were people that were doing illegal things with these mail-in ballots. Anybody who raises that, they have a portal specifically for Facebook where they go in and they flag these things to be taken off of Facebook. They don't want anybody to talk about it. But I think Frank Gaffney is right. It needs to be an overwhelming response. I think we're going to see an overwhelming response so that it is too big to steal. For example, with regards to the Latino population, there's some interesting things that are happening with the Latino population. They are more innately within their community, more pro-life, pro-family, pro-marriage, as union of a man and a woman. They're not buying into this LGBT, transgenderism, and what you're seeing happen, I think you're going to see record numbers of Hispanics voting Republican for the very first time. Those numbers have been increasing since President Donald Trump ran for office, but I think you're going to see even a bigger uptick with regards to that in
issue that we've not really talked about here today is a matter of energy policy. And I know over the weekend, President Biden was making his stump speech. He was in New York just yesterday, and then there was a question that was shouted out to him, and the question wasn't picked up on the microphone, but Biden's answer was clear. No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't formed any new drilling. And then we see also that he reiterated his comments from before that about shutting down coal mines across this country. And we see, I mean, we're being warned as to the higher energy costs that are going to hit everybody this coming heating season. And we know what's taking place across Europe right now, and we're pledging to really see that happen upon United States citizens as well. But it's him that's giving this mantra of shutting down coal mines across the
Man, cut that policy shit off, bro. Nobody want to hear no politics while playing the game.
Lieutenant Governor under Governor Whitmer, his name is Garland Gilchrist, up for re-election with Whitmer, and also has promised supporters at a rally in Ann Arbor. We shut down more coal plants in the second term. This whole matter of energy, people really have their ears perk up.
Well, the interesting thing is that Senate Joe Manchin from West Virginia, who's in a big coal mining state,
Yes.
he actually pushed back, and he said that Biden is not in touch with reality. You're not going to be able to shut down, nor should you shut down these coal plants in favor of wind and solar. It's just not going to happen. But clearly what Biden's intention is to eliminate all fossil fuels and to literally shut down all of these coal mines or other fossil fuels. And then move over to, the other alternative sources such as wind and solar. But the interesting thing, there's a lawsuit from Minnesota against California with regards to California's law that requires all these vehicles by a certain year to be electric powered with no CO2 emissions. And what Minnesota, which is a blue or at least a purple state, depending on the situation there, is suing another blue state, California, over this issue because they said, well, that may work for you in California, but it doesn't work very well in a very cold state like Minnesota because the batteries have 40% less battery life in a cold state than it does a sunshine state like California. So all of these ideas that this is going to replace fossil fuel is just fictitious. But from a consumer standpoint, we've seen the effect of Biden's energy policy, and it has hit everybody in the pocketbook. When Trump left office, gas was around $2.30-some, and then in the summer it hit $5 a gallon. Despite the fact that Biden says it was reversed, that it was at $5 a gallon when Trump left. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's $5 a gallon this summer under Biden, and it's because he shut down all of the XL pipeline and all the other efforts to be able to have us energy independent, which we were just 2 years ago.
Matt, tomorrow election monitors are crucial, are they not?
No, they're very critical. And here's an example of the state of Virginia. Virginia went very blue, governor, House, and Senate, and it was blue for 2 years. And because of that, they passed every conceivable bad law and policy you could imagine because they were able to just roll it through because of their majorities in all three areas. The people of Virginia pushed back and they just got tired of it. I think that's what we're seeing on a national level as well. They were under that rule for 2 years and it was oppressive. But they still had the bad laws because Virginia didn't have any voter reform laws because they had the Democrats in power. What they did was they trained poll watchers and they were able to eliminate voter fraud and had this overwhelming historic red wave in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Friends, we're going to take a quick break. Matt Staver with us from Liberty Counsel. If you would like to get on board with us today, our number 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. Back in a minute.
Scripture says that it was in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. We're reminded from Genesis that every imagination of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. Christ also spoke of impending wars, ethnic conflicts, spiritual deception, famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. It sounds like today's newspaper headlines, yet many people are oblivious to the times in which we are living. In the book, It Could Happen Tomorrow, Dr. Gary Fraser presents future events that will shake the world. He writes of the Great Disappearing, America in Prophecy, the birth of the New World Order, the Islamic invasion of Israel, the Great Deceiver, the Global Religion, Temple Rebuilt, the Mark, and the Glorious Appearing. The book presents both a message of hope to those who know Christ as Savior, as well as a message of warning to those who do not. It Could Happen Tomorrow is available for a donation of $15, or 2 copies for a donation of $25 by calling VCY America at 1-800-729-9829. 1-800-729-9829.
We are on the 10 seconds remaining.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America. Matt Staver with us from Liberty Counsel, their website, lc.org, lc.org. Tomorrow, Election Day here across the United States of America. And friends, as we were just talking going into the break about the poll watchers and the critical nature of integrity, what even happens in that center. I see an article that just came out from Todd Starnes today, and published today, and here it says poll worker removed for pre-selecting a straight Democratic ticket, and he gives a story of a person who was showing people how the system works, but would hit the straight Democratic Party and then leave the people, and they wondered how do we erase this? How do we recycle this back? And they had to call another poll worker in, and then they another poll worker called to the attention of the administrator there of the election to let these incidents be made known, and understand that the person was removed from that position. But Matt, if people go to the polls and they see these kind of irregularities taking place, they need to say something.
They do need to say something. The good news is that I think there's been a lot more training. I know a lot more people that are involved in poll watching this year than ever before, and it was a reaction to what happened in 2020, and that's what happened in Virginia. They didn't have any new reform laws, as we were saying before the break. They had the old laws that they had, the same ones that were in existence in 2020. But what ultimately happened is they went to the polls. These people volunteered, they got trained to do poll watching, and they were able to minimize any kind of fraudulent or irregular activity like what you just talked about and others at the polls on the day of the election. And they were there to monitor and report things when they saw irregularities. As a result of their efforts, there was less concern with regards to the results of the election, and the people turned out in mass, and there was a huge red wave. So now, instead of a Democratic House and Senate and governor's mansion, you've got a pro-life Christian governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general as an example, and you have a huge change in the legislative body as well. You've never had